Welcome into a very special episode here on the Racing Report. My name is Rob Peeters, and today's show is all about the Indianapolis 500 because we've got the 109th running coming up this Sunday, May 25th, and we've got a lot to talk about. We just finished up Carb Day. Cars just came off the racetrack there. We had the Weenie 500. We had the pit stop competition. We had the Brett Michaels and All-American Rejects concert. But now all the focus is going to turn to the Indianapolis 500, and we're going to talk about all of that here on today's show. So before we get started, go ahead and make sure if you like this show to follow me on social media. You can do so by looking up rpeeters33. That's RPEETERS33. And be sure to have that WTHR Plus app installed on your smart TV because there's tons of great Indy 500 related content that's available to you live and on demand anytime you want. So let's go ahead and get started in with the biggest news stories from Carb Day. Let's go ahead and go over them. The first one is Robert Schwartzman, who won the pole, first rookie pole sitter since 1983 with Teo Fabi. Again, I know Tony Stewart, 96. We're talking about pole winner here. First time since that's happened, and he did not have a very good Carb Day practice at all. In fact, the team spent the majority of their 2 hours on track trying to get that car to run better in traffic. That is not a good thing to have happen if you are the pole sitter. Now, I understand you want to trim that car out as much as you can for qualifying, but if that car is not going to last the whole 500 miles because it's going to be evil when Schwartzman's trying to power through it, not exactly what you want to get. So they're trying to maybe get the car a little bit more drag, give it a little more downforce so that maybe it can do better in traffic. So we'll have to watch. It's going to be a very, very interesting start. I'll be very curious to see how that opening lap goes and if we stay green the entire time. Meanwhile, lots of Carb Day problems hit other drivers as well. We had Graham Rahal have a problem early on in the session. Then we had Ryan Hunter-Reay have a fire. And in fact, we'll talk about what happened here later about Ryan Hunter-Reay. But then we had Takuma Sato lose an engine. Lots of other things going on. Now, Sato looked really, really fast. And he's looked fast all month. Ever since he had that crash during the open test in April, he's come back and he's literally been laying down insane laps for a car that was pretty much junk about a month ago. Now, Sato comes in. He's got a great qualifying position. He starts P2, but then on Carb Day, something happens with the engine. The car comes to a stop. They pull up behind the wall. They don't even get to go out to the garage area. They have to wait to get the car until after the session is done. And so now the big question remains, what does Sato's car look like come race day? I think that's the biggest question I think a lot of people are going to have. So not only do you have the first place car may or may not run well in traffic, but then you have a lot of questions about, well, what happened on Sato's car? Well, I don't think we have a confirmed idea of really what happened on that car other than it might have been something to do with the engine. I don't know. Might have been given what happened to Graham Rahal. Again, they aren't teammates, although Sato is only driving this race and this race only. Either way, very nervous. If I was Sato, I'd be a little bit nervous, but not super nervous because I do believe that these Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan cars do have speed, and they are quick because if I look at this here, Devlin DeFrancesco was fourth fastest during Carb Day. Now, I understand that doesn't say much. It is Carb Day. As I said last week, practice can be deceiving, but Carb Day is usually that last chance. This is what you get to see what teams are best suited when driving in traffic. And that's what's really going to be the key to winning this Indianapolis 500 is making sure that your car runs better in traffic than the guy in front of you. That's what's going to be key. And it's a fine balance. It's a fine line because if your car runs real well in traffic, it might not run real well on its own. You got to make that balance. You've got to have that walking tightrope to really nail down the setup here for this Indy 500. And that's why Carb Day is so important. But in addition to Takuma Sato having problems, also Ryan Hunter-Reay had problems for Dreyer and Reinbold Racing with Cusick Motorsports. Now, Hunter-Reay had a huge fire at the back of the car caused by Lord knows what happened. He said he felt liquid coming down his shoulder. That's not good. Might have been a I don't want to say an ethanol fire. I don't know. I don't really know what kind of fire it was. But what we do know is that fire was bad enough that now Ryan Hunter-Reay is going to have to go to a backup car. So he barely gets enough time really to qualify, to really run this car during final practice carb day, and now he's got to run a backup car in the Indianapolis 500. Now, IndyCar has granted him about a 15-minute session on Saturday so that he can run some install laps, but that's it. So if that car's not running super great on Saturday morning, might be kind of worried for Hunter Ray. I think that DRR Cusick Motorsports crew is going to be scrambling here to get that car ready for race day. Now, other drivers who had problems during carb day. Colton Herta had brake problems. Alexander Rossi was leaking water, had to go to the garage area. Then you had Ed Carpenter, also the guy who owns Alexander Rossi's car, technically a teammate as well. He had a hybrid problem that necessitated its replacement. So lots of things going on, lots of cars having attrition already during carb day. Now, no wrecks, but lots of attrition. Now, let's talk about the guys who were on top during carb day. That would be Joseph Newgarden. You remember, he's coming from the back. He is going to be starting from row 11. So that car had to be trimmed out, make sure that it is good to run through traffic. And it's going to be very, very interesting to watch Joseph Newgarden and Will Power as well come from the back, because Newgarden, fastest in carb day. Power, 5th fastest in carb day. So clearly these Penske cars still have a lot of speed. Now, the third Penske car, Scott McLaughlin, who has really kind of been more or less alienated, I guess, from this whole Penske cheating scandal because of his Sunday morning crash before the Fast 12 qualifying session. McLaughlin is still starting 10th. But he was 27th fastest on carb day. Very curious to see how well that car has been repaired. Very curious to see if Penske has made any changes, because again, you've got all new, pretty much mostly new teams running Newgarden, Power, and McLaughlin for this week, for just this race. So for me, I am very curious to see how McLaughlin's going to do, even though I think that Power and Newgarden are going to be able to make their way up through the field. I'm a little bit nervous on Scott McLaughlin just right now. But we'll see. Again, also pacing carb day was Takuma Sato. Before his engine let go or whatever happened to it, Sato was very, very fast again. That's why this is going to be so interesting to see how Sato does on Sunday, because we know that he had a fast car until whatever problem happened on carb day. Now, let's say the team's able to fix that car, get it back to the way it was. I think he should be a pretty decent threat to win his third Indy 500. I would not balk at somebody who was betting on Sato, because I think it is a good bet. I'm not a gambler. I'm not promoting gambling on this show, but I'm simply saying if you wanted to put $10 down on Sato, you might have a decent chance at winning some money. But I haven't made my predictions yet. We'll get to those here later on in the show. But otherwise, who else was fast in carb day? Scott Dixon. I think Scott Dixon's going to be the guy to watch as well. He has not won an Indianapolis 500 since 2008. It's been about 17 years now. If he wins on Sunday, like I said in the most recent racing report, he would break Juan Montoya's record for most years between two Indianapolis 500 victories. So Scott Dixon's got a lot to go for, especially knowing that his teammate Alex Palou is on the same row as him and will likely be trying just as hard to get there. So that is your recap real quick of carb day. We're going to go ahead and take a real quick break. And when we come back, I'm going to give you every single storyline that you need to be aware of before this Indianapolis 500, and I'm going to give my predictions for who I think will be in victory lane, kissing the bricks, and drinking the milk on Sunday. So don't go anywhere. You are watching The Racing Report. And welcome back to The Racing Report. My name is Rob Peeters. Let's talk about the Indianapolis 500 storylines. This is not carb day related. This is exclusively what's going on during the race. Obviously, the big story pretty much everywhere is Kyle Larson running the double. That's going to be a very big point of emphasis as the weekend goes on, because the rain might stay away. 13 News meteorologists are kind of saying that the rain might stay away, might stay south to us. If that's the case, that's best case scenario for Kyle Larson, because all he needs right now is a dry race day. Doesn't matter if it's partly cloudy, doesn't matter if it's completely cloudy. He just needs it to stay dry so that he could stay on his schedule and get to Charlotte in time to run the Coca-Cola 600. I think this might be Larson's best opportunity to complete the 1,100 miles. And remember, this is going to be Larson's last attempt at the double for the foreseeable future. If ever. He might only ever return to the Indy 500 when his NASCAR career is done. So we really want to watch Kyle Larson on Sunday because, especially after his performance last year, I think a lot of people have him as one of the favorites to potentially not only just finish the race in a respectable position, but maybe even win. We'll get to that again later on here in the show. But Larson will have to do it coming from the 19th starting spot. Now, he qualified 21st. The Penske penalties moved him up to 19th. Not as good as the finish, as the start that he had last year when he was starting, I believe, on the second row. He's going to have to fight through some traffic to get to the front again this year, but I don't think he's going to make those mistakes that he made last year on pit road. I really think Larson's going to tighten things up, and it's going to be really interesting to watch and see if that car is good enough in traffic to kind of move his way up through the field. Now, as I take a look here real quick, let's see how he did in Carb Day. He was 26th fastest. Again, practice can be deceiving. I'm going to err on that, but again, that does have me just a little bit worried for Larson in terms of maybe getting a top 10, which I really think is a legitimate possibility for him this year. But otherwise, let's talk about some Helio Castroneves, the fan favorite Helio Castroneves. Who doesn't love Helio? He's going for five Indianapolis 500. So the drive for 5 is still alive. He's not giving up on it. I don't think he'll give up on it at least for the next several years. He's going to keep trying to go. And this year might be decent for him. Now, Castroneves starts 22nd. Not one of his best starting spots. Maybe not the best opportunity for him to make a run at the victory. But I do think you have to watch Castroneves because he's been sneaky on those practice charts. Sometimes he's been quick, sometimes he's been kind of middle of the road, but for the most part, it looks like, I think, if Castroneves goes more toward what Felix Rosenqvist has got underneath of his number 60 car, I think that 06 can be just as fast. Now, Marcus Armstrong, obviously the third Meyer-Shank car, had that big crash during practice over the last weekend. I'm kind of nervous about his speed, but looking at Helio, looking at Rosenqvist, I think if Helio and Rosenqvist can go back and forth and maybe share some data there, I think both of them will be a lot faster, and I'll be very curious to see if that drive for 5 can actually get pulled off on Sunday or if it will have to be postponed to another year. Now, again, as I mentioned earlier, Joseph Newgarden, Will Power coming from the final row. That's going to be really what you're going to watch. Most people, when you watch the Indy 500, you watch the start, you watch the front row, you see how the front row is going to go. But I think there's going to be a solid amount of people in the stands, and that sold-out grandstands coming up on Sunday, that are going to be watching that last row of Will Power and Joseph Newgarden and seeing how many spots they can make up in the opening laps. And I will be very surprised if they can at least move up 10 spots from their starting positions. But the rest of the race is going to be difficult. You're going to have to be very on top of your strategy. And again, both of those guys working with more or less new strategists. Very interesting things could happen, and I think you got to be Penske perfect in those situations. If Joseph Newgarden is going to get a three-peat, he's going to have to do it from the last row, and I think that's the ultimate challenge you could possibly give this guy when it comes to accomplishing a feat that's never been accomplished before. The last person to have a chance at going for a three-peat was Helio Castroneves in 2003. He finished second to his teammate Gilles de Ferran. I'm not saying history will repeat itself, but Castroneves had a way better starting spot in 2003, by the way, than Newgarden did. So it was a little bit more likely back then than it might be this year. But again, anything can change. Attrition can happen. Pit strategy can happen. Yellow flags can fall in the right time. Who knows? Who really knows? That's kind of the fun. We don't know. And we're all going to be watching on the edges of our seats to find out how Power and Newgarden do when the race really gets to its climax toward the end of the final 20 laps. Now, speaking of another contender, let's talk about Alex Palou. Obviously, Alex Palou has been absolutely dominant this season. 4 wins in the first 5 races. The only guy who's beaten him so far is Kyle Kirkwood, and I'm not so sure that those Andretti cars are going to be as good as they might have been in the past. Even Marcus Ericsson, Colton Herta, not super great in Carb Day. Kind of nervous for him a little bit. Obviously, Herta had that crash. That's basically a completely rebuilt car. Herta should just be glad that the car keep up, and I think that's what he is. He is just kind of glad that the car is just able to keep up in traffic and move through traffic however it needs, and not spin out, not be completely loose, not be completely sideways. I think that's all Herta's focused on. But I think Palou knows that this is the last thing that's missing. This is the last notch that is missing from his IndyCar belt. You know, he's got the 3 championships. He's got all these wins. He's got incredible stats to back himself up, but he doesn't have an Indy 500 win yet. He's got a second place finish, but he doesn't have that elusive Indy 500 win. I think Palou's going to be extra hungry come Sunday, and especially with his good starting spot, I would probably watch Palou. Palou might be the guy that gets it done on Sunday, especially given the penalties to the Penske cars. But here's who I think he's going to have to really beat, too, is going to be Pato O'Ward. Pato looks strong, and he's got unfinished business from the last couple of years. All he wants to do is win this race. That's all Pato O'Ward really cares about right now, is winning this race. And so he's going to give it his absolute all. Now, he starts P3. He was 8th fastest on Carb Day. That's not bad, especially when you're talking about a guy going through traffic. If you can trim your car out to run real fast on its own, and then go back to the garage area and trim it out again and or detrim it, I should say, so that it can run in a draft and then still be fast, Pato might have his best shot. Even though last year might have been his best shot, even though 2 years ago might have been his best shot, I still think Pato is going to be one to watch on Sunday. And honestly, this is another situation where if you wanted to put money on him, I would not discourage you from doing that. I'm not going to encourage anybody from gambling, but I wouldn't discourage it because it might win you some money. Now, other guys we got to talk about, I want to discuss real quick, is Connor Daly, the hometown hero, Noblesville's own Connor Daly. Starting P11, was 10th fastest in Carb Day. Had a little bit of an issue during Carb Day they were a little bit worried about, but that car looks very fast, and I think a lot of people are going to be sleeping on Connor Daly. Connor Daly is one of the quicker cars. Now, again, he's starting P11, but he didn't make the Fast 6. That's only because the Penske cars got penalized. But that's still a decent starting spot for him, and he showed really solid, consistent speed throughout the month. I think Connor Daly might be one to get one of his best Indianapolis finishes coming up this Sunday, and I think that's going to make a lot of people in Noblesville quite happy, and it might also brighten Doug Boles' day to see his stepson do well in the Indianapolis 500 to take some of the pressure off that he's had to deal with the last week with the Penske attenuator scandal. And again, we do have a Racing Report episode all about that, so if you want to watch more about that, go ahead and check it out on WTHR+. Now, finally, I got to talk about David Malukas, man. He's another sleeper that I don't think a lot of people are discussing. A lot of people have in the past said, oh, hey, Santino Ferrucci, he's probably going to be the guy who's going to win this Indy 500 first. Ferrucci has not been as fast as I expected him to be. Not in qualifying, not in Carb Day, not in any of the practice sessions, but Malukas has, and that is the key deal here. So, where was Malukas on Carb Day? Well, he was P9. Where does he start on Sunday? P7. So right around where he's supposed to be. Top 10 speed. That's really good if you're AJ Foyt Racing, especially when Ferrucci's car does not look to be as fast as Malukas' car. I think that they still have an opportunity at grabbing a top 10, which would be huge for that organization, especially since the departure of Michael Cannon and everything that's gone on in the last 12 months. Now, here's what you've all been waiting for. Here are my predictions. These are just my predictions. I could be completely wrong about this, but again, I wait until Carb Day to make these predictions. And I've been wrong in the past. I've been wrong plenty of times. I've also been right a couple of times. That's just what they are. They're predictions. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't have viewing into the future. This is just for fun. So let me know. Like I said, follow me on social media. Give me a tweet or whatever it's called on X now. And I'm also on Blue Sky, too, if you want to do that. But go ahead and let me know. What do you think? Who do you think is going to win the Indianapolis 500 on Sunday? Because here's who I think is going to win it. Number 1, Scott Dixon. I don't think you can count him out. I think you look at Dixon's speed and pace all throughout the month of May. I think he's got his eyes set on a second Borg Warner. He's been kind of quiet, but that's just what Scott Dixon wants. He wants you to underestimate him because that's when he's at his best. When you're not expecting Dixon to pull out a win or get a solid podium finish, get a top 5, whatever. He will do that. I think Dixon is going to be one to watch on Sunday. Now, the other guy, and I've talked about him already earlier, I think this might be Pato's year. I don't want to jinx it, but Pato has been really, really fast all year. He's focused all this energy, all of this time on this race, just this race alone. I will be very surprised if Pato is not drinking the milk when the race ends on Sunday. Now, finally, this is my third prediction. I do have one honorable mention I will get to as well. Actually, you know what? Let's go ahead and do the honorable mention first. The honorable mention, I think, is going to be Kyle Larson. And as I said, it all depends on how well he does on pit road, how well he does carving through the field. The car doesn't look exactly right in traffic, but then again, Kyle Larson kind of does Kyle Larson things most of the time. The car might not be handling the way he wants it to, but he'll find a way to adapt and adjust. He did that last year during the race. He's done that in his NASCAR career. He's done that on his dirt track career. I don't see why anything's different, especially since he's got Tony Kanaan basically teaching him everything he needs to know. He's got a lot of really strong teammates as well. Pato being a teammate is really good for him. Lundgaard, I think, can offer some good expertise, but of course, I think really that big key is going to be Tony Kanaan and how much Kanaan is able to guide him, because Kanaan's got all that experience. Kanaan has a Indy 500 win. He's got an IRL championship. You know, he's more than qualified to give Larson the advice that he needs. So, and I've said it since last year, and I've said it since before the cars were even on track. I do like Kyle Larson's chances for a Indy 500 victory on Sunday. I'm not going to rule it out. I'm serious. I'm not ruling it out. Go watch how he did last year up until the pit road penalty. I think he just smooths that out, stays out of trouble, has no mechanical errors. That's going to be the key. I think you might see Larson in victory lane. And then the question is, does he even go to Charlotte? I think he's going to have to. After all that happened last year, I think he's going to have no choice but to go to Charlotte. But you know, hey, still kind of cool for that to see that possibly happen. Now, finally, my final pick is going to be Alex Palou. I think Alex Palou has just been on a tear this year, and I don't see any reason why it's going to end. He's still fast. He's still quick. He's on the best team. He's got Scott Dixon to compare himself to, and that's not a bad person to compare yourself to. Honestly, Dixon was a little bit faster than Palou, but I think Palou is going to be better in traffic. That's really what I'm going to see. So my 3 possible winners, plus the honorable mention of Kyle Larson, are going to be Scott Dixon Pato Award or Alex Palou. That is who I think are the 3 drivers that might end up on the top step of the podium, plus Larson, if things go well. So that is it for this episode. I really appreciate you guys tuning in. We're really excited for the Indianapolis 500. Be sure to watch coming up this Sunday, starting at, I believe, 10 a.m. is when Fox is going live. Oh boy, get ready for that. But make sure to watch WTHR Sunrise coverage before you switch over to Fox. Anyway. So thank you guys for tuning in this week, and I hope you enjoy the Indianapolis 500. I know I'm going to, and we will see you again next week for another regular episode of the Racing Report, where we're going to break down everything that happened during the Indianapolis 500 weekend. Plus, we're going to talk Coca-Cola 600 and Monaco Grand Prix. So, for WTHR Plus, this is Rob Peeters, and this has been the Racing Report.